Everybody understand where that came from? Let's do one more together. We're gonna do this time, the female cup. What should I multiply?
Female cup, that'd be 1,002 times 1,000.
1,002 times 1,000 divided by 2,200. $455.5. Everybody agree? Okay, I'm gonna give everybody a spot. Ready? Tegan, you got this one? Let's make this one Michael, and this one can be Cole, and this one's Zach. And Caitlin's got that one, and Ryan, and Gustavo, and Jasmine.
How many decimal places? Just one?
We'll just do one.
Ooh, mine's nice, no decimals at all. That's what's up. Is there a way to like without going into like a program or anything that far? Is there a way to like do like 502 times x, but like be able to switch the x and it's like hit second entry and do that one again? Well, not second entry, but scroll up, hit it again after you change the x.
Yeah.
Like how do you like change what x equals? Kind of better.
Oh, you store it, so it'd be, so like this, if all right, remember how I told you that x, I think I told you this, right, that x
Yeah.
equals something on your calculator right now? Mine's 16.
Yeah.
If you hit the nothing next to your x, it'll tell you. If I hit x, stored is above the on key, and say I want to store x as 5.
Doesn't that crash it?
Oh, is it? Or is it 5 stored as x?
Oh, maybe that's what it is. I was trying the other way.
5
Okay.
stored as x, and
Yeah.
then if I hit x now it's 5.
Alright, thank you.
So if you wanted to input something into it,
Like do an equation like 10 times.
like f of 8, and you wanted to put 8 into a complex equation, and you wanted to make all of your x's 8, you could do it that way. That's what Gustav was asking me. Okay, Tegan.
346.4.
346.4. Michael?
209.5.
Cole?
24.
Zach?
73.6.
Caitlin?
28.6.
Ryan?
I got 71.5, so that's definitely wrong.
That could be right.
Gustavo?
Oh, I missed a 0.
20.
Jasmine?
61.4.
61.4.
174.5.
0.6? Or is it 0.5?
0.5.
Okay, 174.5.
This is 0.545.
Okay. I'm looking at the book and it's got 2 decimal places, so it says 5.5, so I don't know what the one before that was. Makes sense. Okay. All right. Everybody understands how to get the expected?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So now the question is observed pretty close to the expected? And the reason why this is what we would expect is because you'd basically say, look, if this many people out of 2,200, so this is a philosophy thing, so listen now carefully. Let's say I looked here and I said, look, I asked 22 people, or 2,200 people, what their favorite way of eating ice cream was. And about 1,000 people said they like ice cream in a cup. And about 1,000 girls were in the study. So then what I should be able to do is multiply these two together and divide by that and figure out how many girls, therefore, just proportionally, would say that they enjoyed ice cream in a cup. And it should have been about 455, but it was less than that. So the question is the fact that it's less than that to do with gender? Like, does it mean that females don't prefer ice cream in a cup compared to what we expected and that males super do? So the question is it independent or not? Is it close enough to what we expected it to be? And if it is really close to what we expect it to be, then it's considered independent. All right, backside. We're gonna keep going with this example.
Oh, it gives us values on that.
I know, and I totally made you do it by hand, and there they all are, right there.
I mean, it's worthwhile.
As long as you understand where it's coming from, right? Okay, so I've got the guidelines for doing a chi-square test on the top. The null and alternative hypothesis this time. The null is that they're independent. This is always the case. The alternative is not independent.
How many months does it take to not, or how many months does it take to get our results back after the AP test?
It's the first week of July.
July. So when it says not independent, could we also write dependent?
Sure. You want to write that? Want to write dependent instead? That better? I'm trying to get you to think of it like how H sub O is always equals. So independent means that there is no difference between what we expected to happen and what did happen. And if that's the truth, then they should be independent. But if they're very different than what we expected, then gender must have influenced ice cream choice somehow. All right, so we're gonna try this together. We're only doing one example.
But you can claim either, right?
You could claim that they're independent or dependent, sure. That's something else we can do if you want to. We can do these kind of tests just for fun when we run out of time of things to do in this class, because we've covered it all way too early. We could do an independence test where you do stuff like shooting basketballs and response time and all of these different hand-eye coordination tests or memory tests you can do, and you can compare genders or compare grades and see if it has to do with it, you know? It's interesting. Okay, well, all right. Does the favorite weight of ice cream is related to gender? Let's start. H sub O, H sub A. I'm gonna write independent and dependent.
If you're gonna write it that, we could put like, gender does not affect.
Right,
ice cream.
or I would specifically use the word independent.
Okay.
So I would say,
Gender
if this was an AP test, I would say, the choice of how you eat your ice cream is independent from gender, is my H sub O. And the choice of how you eat your ice cream is dependent on gender, is how I would write my H sub A. Okay, now we identify alpha. Alpha is right there. Our degree of freedom this time, you know how normally you do n minus 1? It is not this minus 1, it's how many rows you have minus 1 and how many columns you have minus 1. So it's rows minus 1 and columns minus 1 multiplied together. So how many rows do we have? Do you remember what a row is?
2.
It's the left and right ones. So 2 of those, 2 minus 1 is 1. Columns minus 1?
4.
4. So our degree of freedom in this one is 4. Make sure I'm doing this right.
Is that the only difference from, both from what we did yesterday?
Yeah, and the fact that that it's harder to figure out what the expected stuff
Where's
is,
there alpha? Oh, I'm going, never mind.
right? The other one was just multiplying by what you had, and this is 2 things at the same time. Just making sure I'm doing this right. Degree of freedom is 4, yes.
Is the bell curve still off-centered?
Yes.